Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to I think it's the fourth, but definitely the final video in the restoration series of this Graetz Melodia. It is done. And she's looking absolutely gorgeous, and this video will show you how I got it to this stage. So when I finished off last time, I told you I was going to start on the cabinet work. That's what I've done. It's been quite an experience. It's been fun, actually, and the result has been far better than I expected. This is my version of a tip-tin. It doesn't shine, there's no gloss. I like matte, but it's my version of a tip-tin. Sorry, Dave. We've got to be different, otherwise it'll just get boring. So if you enjoy this sort of thing and if you want to see how she dresses up, stick around and enjoy the video. Before we carry on, I just want to thank the sponsors of the video, PCBWay. You'll find them at pcbway.com. And as we go into December, they're running their Christmas sales. Here you'll find some amazing offers, both on PCB prototyping, assembly, rigid flex, advanced PCBs. Also, if you want 3D printing or CNC machining, you've got some amazing offers here as well. And they're also running a lucky draw, where you click on a box and get some goodies. And I don't know whether you know it or not, but they've also got a store where you can get some amazing modules. So whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's for Christmas or just for your normal projects, go to pcbway.com. I'm sure you'll find something for your needs. I've been looking forward to this stage for a change. I have actually been looking forward to doing a cabinet. That is unusual for me. And I decided to record this for two reasons. One, to show you, and two, for me to have a record of what it is that I remove, where I remove it from, and so that I can use it as a reference to put it all back. Now, I have studied this. There's obviously the big harness going down there, this thing over here that goes and gets back into the radio. It goes to those switches at the bottom. So what I've decided to do is to try and remove this whole thing entirely connected together, sort of as one unit or one whole. There's going to be a lot of flapping around of switches and wires and all that. But I'm curious about this thing here. So I actually took a screw out here already, and that's when I decided I needed to record this. So the first thing I'll do is remove these 4 brackets. I think this thing comes out and that pops off there. There's a ring here. This might be stuck on there, I'm not sure. So let me start. I'm keeping all the screws for the cabinet section separate. It's always a bit of a challenge for me trying to remember where screws came from. This just makes it easier. Some of these screws are pretty rusted. Okay, now how did these things come out? Oh, all right. Looks like this thing is not really stuck on there. Oh, that was easy. Now I'll just try and ease that out of there. There we go. What does that remind you of? This reminds me of one of those pipes from those church organs. So this is obviously resonant. It's not just a pipe. This is definitely resonant at a particular frequency or range of frequencies, which should be interesting. I'm going to try and detect which frequency is resonant here when I've got this thing back together again. And this end, so that all comes out. This thing is actually not quite sealed there. I think it might have cracked open, so I'll have to seal it. So that gets put aside. This gets put aside. And the same will apply for this one. Looks like, yep, it's exactly the same as the other one. Oh, these guys look ugly. So all that will have to be cleaned up, new tape and so on. Oh, that was easy. Now with this over here, I've got some wires going there. I've got a resistor, I've got 2 caps, and I've got another wire here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label these wires, put that on there and that on there. It's not strictly necessary. You can always just follow the schematic, but this certainly makes it a lot easier. I'm going to call that 1 and that one 2. And the fact that I've got a reference on here just makes it a lot easier for me to find it later, because this is going to get sort of messed up. I know that from experience. When you start cleaning this whole thing up, it just gets completely mixed up and you don't know where you took it from. I've got enough space, so I'm just going to clip this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder these guys together. Just going to tack this on here. Just makes it easier for me later on to know what goes where. And now I'll do the same for this one, and I'll be able to remove that horn out of there. Okay, those two are done. So I'll bend that down. I've got this thing sitting by itself. It looks like it just takes 2 screws, and I should be able to get that out. That's held in by a bracket with 2 of these screws, and this guy's free. Seems to be in good shape. Just some cleaning and replace that tape. Okay, that gets put aside. This antenna, it comes in here, goes all the way around, comes down the sides. This is the internal FM dipole. I'm going to leave this in place. I usually do. There's not much that can go wrong, even if some water gets on it when I clean this. So that's staying right where it is. Now those guys, they're in here with some nuts, and I think there's some nuts over there. But I think there's some screws on the front as well. No, the screws on the front are just holding the brass panel on there, so I need to remove those nuts. Okay, this one's out. Nuts and retainer washers. Keep those in place. So that one is out. This thing is stapled on here. Can always put those staples back later. Okay, that one's done. Let me do the other one. Right, those nuts are out. There's another stapled thingy here. And that guy is out. And that's it. We've got our harness removed from the bottom. So these two are going to stay together with the socket on there, or the plug on there. This is going to become part of that speaker assembly when I take it out. So these two are completely free now, free of the bottom. I can remove them together with that speaker assembly at the top there. Keep this together. Look at this. I think this is going to have to go into a bath. Obviously not the speakers, but this section could well do with a bath, and then clean it out properly with some alcohol. Yeah, that might be an idea. Some of these switches are really stuck. In fact, before I clean them, I don't even want to force this, because sometimes those can get bent. This has got a screw down here, but I think there's one underneath that, so I might have to remove that cover. This is impossible to do all on camera. Let me take it out off camera and I'll show you the result. Yep, I removed these screws, the 2 long ones from the end and the other one from the top there, and this thing's still completely solid. So there's still something else holding it in place. I've got a feeling there's screws underneath there, so I'll have to investigate. Probably have to detach that from the cabinet and see how we get this thing out of here. As I thought, I removed this flap from there. This thing was stuck with glue on top of that space there, and there's another big screw down there. So I'll do the same to the other side, and I think we'll be able to remove this. Well, that was a lot tougher than I thought, because I believed when I removed those screws, I'd just be able to pull this out. And no matter how much I tried without damaging anything, it wouldn't move. And then, I mean, I did all sorts of things. I thought perhaps this rail was holding it in place, and indeed there are 2 screws, one on each end, and there's some nails in here, so I removed that. That screw doesn't come out. It's got to be drilled out for some reason. It's completely stuck. But then I thought, let me try pull out the speaker and see if there's anything holding it in place. And so I did. And look at that sneaky bugger over there. There's one there, and I bet you there's another one behind that speaker as well, underneath. So let me do that and get this out of the cabinet. This has been incredibly frustrating. This is the toughest radio I've ever had to disassemble the cabinet for. Okay, that finally came out. I actually prefer to leave the speakers on the front panel. Less chance of them being damaged, so I'll put them back in place. And now we've got to remove this. This is a metal grill, and it seems to be held in place just with some rivets, so it shouldn't be a problem. And then I'll find some way of removing that screw. Okay, almost there. That is done. Now I need to remove this section, which seems to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 visible screws. Let's see if there are any invisible ones as well. We'll find out. Actually, I think there's some clips here holding the logo in place. That has to come off first. Yeah. That's one clip with a bit of rubber on there. Very well done. Okay. That's done. And there'll be a clip here as well somewhere, shouldn't there be? Don't see one. Let me just try the screws. Yeah. And it's all come out. Whew, finally. Let me make sure that I collect all the little washers and screws and everything else that might be in here. Okay. Put that aside. Make sure I look after these little guys because they definitely are hard to replace. All right. I think that's it. Let's have a look at the front. Well, that's still not it because we've still got these guys to remove. And there's a little screw here, very small little screw here, which you can almost not see. And it seems to be very rusted. So I've got to be careful when I take it out, or it'll strip and then I've got a problem. Man, this thing is small. That's all it is. Where there's one, there must be another one. Of course there is. This thing is, I think this thing's broken. I think it snapped in there. Yeah, it snapped in there. And the front is out. Okay. See, there's that clip that I took out, and this one had broken off. But it looks like you can solder one on there, which is what I'll do when I restore that. And it looks like everything that's got to come out of here has come out of here. I'm not removing anything else, like the antenna. That front grille just slipped out. It was already coming unstuck. And this will be easy to clean and sand down to the wood and restore. Shouldn't be difficult. There's the original wood color. It's actually darker than I expected, but I'm going to leave this fairly light because I like the light wood. We'll see how it goes. Okay. What a job. I really am glad I recorded this for my benefit. I'll see how much of this I put up on the video itself. Looking rather different. I managed to scrape all the old lacquer off. A lot of it was just chipping off by itself. And all I've done is given it a light sanding with 120 grit paper just to get rid of some of the more aggressive bits that got stuck on there. But I'm actually happy with what I'm seeing. I don't see much damage, which is always a good start. There are a few very, very small chips and dings, which I'm going to have to sort out. I'll probably use some of the dust that I get from sanding so I get exactly the same color. But the important thing is that there isn't anything really seriously wrong with this. So I'm just going to get on with it, and we'll see how it comes out. As I mentioned, I want to keep this light, and I think it's going to look absolutely gorgeous. Well, here's the result. After I don't know how many layers of lacquer, and I've got the matte finish that I want, which some of you really don't like, but that's what I wanted. I do not want to shine. I've left it fairly light. This is actually an oak finish, which is wiped on, wiped off, and then I did I did about 3 coats of that because I wanted a little bit darker than it was coming out at. The beauty of it is that I don't see any flaws except that one little thing on the edge there, top right. But that's just from the filling that I did in there. I'm very, very happy with this. This is exactly what I want. And I've also done something to the back. I painted all that black edging just to get it nice and cleaned up. So all the black edging on the back there has been redone with that acrylic paint, artist's paint. There might be 1 or 2 little touch-ups to do at the end as well. So this thing is now ready to start receiving all the adornments, all the bits, and you see some of them in the background there. I've done a lot of cleaning of the brass elements. I've done derusting of all the metal parts. I've got to get my electric stapler from the garage somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I need that. And I'm going to start putting those things in reverse. Good thing I've got the video to remind me how these things go in. And hopefully, the next time you see this, the cabinet will be complete. And here she is, all dressed up. And I must admit, she dresses up very, very nicely. I really, really like the result. Let me just give you a few details on how I got this result. This was actually, well, sort of by mistake. This wood was not oak. I thought it was like a yellowy oak. That was not the case. This wood was actually darker than I thought originally. The sun had basically bleached it, and you could see it on this section underneath here what the actual color was, which was a little bit darker than what you saw at the top. So when I sanded this down, and I sanded it down with 120 first, and then 240, and then 360, I think it was. So I got this thing perfectly smooth, okay? I did not use any pore sealant, or whatever the thing is called. I just had it very, very smooth. And then I applied this stuff. Now this is a colorant, a color, a tint. It's water-based, and this one was for oak, okay? Now, I was actually putting a color that was lighter than the one that was than the wood itself, and it worked out very well because what it did was it didn't add any color, but it brought out the natural color of the wood. I don't know how it worked, but it did. So I did that. I did a couple of these, and you just wipe them on with a cloth. You don't have to worry about running or anything like that. So it wipes on very well. It absorbs very well, and the result was more or less what you see here. Then what I did was I started painting on with a brush this transparent varnish for wood, right? Now this is just basically lacquer. It doesn't have any color itself, but it does bring out the natural color of the wood. And I did, 5 coats of this stuff. This one is also water-based. There are many types around. I actually prefer the oil-based because it's thicker and you can use less coats, but it takes so long to dry. This stuff is fantastic. I did all these coats, and every now and then, I think every second coat, I gave it a bit of a sanding with wet and dry sandpaper. Very, very fine. I think it was like 1200. It's almost paper, okay? So I kept putting these things on, and I got a nice layer of lacquer on there. And then I went crazy with the wet and dry, and I made it perfectly smooth so that this thing was all dull. I mean, obviously when you sand it down, it gets dull, but it was perfectly smooth. And then I used matte spray paint lacquer. It's a car type, I can't remember the brand, but it's a car lacquer, transparent, and it's actually matte, which is what I wanted. And I gave it like 3 coats of that, no sanding in between, nothing, and the result is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You probably can't see much on the camera, but I can tell you this is what I wanted, this is what I got. And then I let this thing, well, I had to let it dry for quite some time before I started putting on the adornments. And I'll show you those now, because this thing was quite a job to complete. There are a lot of stuff to put on here, especially on the speaker side, which I'll show you in a second. First of all, we've got that brass rim over there. That was cleaned up and stuck in with some glue, not much glue, just to hold it in place, because it was basically falling out. And then, I don't know if you recall what this emblem looked like, but it was all dull. I used a Dremel on there just to bring the metal brass shine back out, and it did work very, very well. The lettering, you've got to use the Dremel lightly so it doesn't get to that brown section, because otherwise it will sand it away and you don't want that. So that all came out very, very well. The ends here, you can see there's a little screw down there. Those were 2 new screws that I used because the other one of them had broken and the other one was completely rusted. That black section there, that was just cleaned and screwed in from the back. So the front was done, and I started inside by putting in that the rail. I had to redo the paddings on there, some of the tape, all the tape they had there to prevent scratching. It basically rotted away. So that was cleaned and put in there. Then that metal grill goes in, and that is stapled in place. And then, of course, the faceplate with the speakers on it. But let me show you the back. This is busy. There's a lot going on here. A lot more complex than the usual tube radios I work on because of this complex speaker system. It is made easier by the fact that you've got a socket here. So everything just plugs into the radio. And those buttons at the bottom, which are usually on the radio itself, obviously are separate. This made testing the radio itself a little bit difficult. Couldn't really test all the functions. I mean, things like tone controls didn't work because they are interlinked with those pre-selects. But let's take this one step at a time. Those pipes were properly cleaned, all the old tape removed, the brackets as well, screws as well, and put back in exactly the way they were before. That funny driver also cleaned and redone and put in place. Nothing special about that, it's just basically it's a speaker. And I did seal some of the holes that I'd seen on that black interconnect from the inside, just so that we got something more solid. That mid-range had to be retouched up with some paint because there were some rust spots on there. I removed the rust and did some painting on it. Same applies to the 2 drivers. That back dark green, what is that, teal cover, that was repainted. There was a little bit of, it wasn't really deep rust, but it was there. So that was cleaned up, and all this was retouched up. And it worked out fantastically. All the wiring was cleaned, and the tape that holds it together, the harness, was redone. Now those switches, because this thing has got a harness to the speaker system, as you can see, I was able to put this on the edge of the sink so it didn't get any water. And then I put this whole section in the sink, all this, washed it out with water, and then I soaked it in WD-40 before I then soaked it out or rinsed it out with alcohol. This was fantastic. It got this thing clean straight away. I mean, this would have been a hell of a nightmare to clean those switches. They were really grubby, but it worked out very well. And then I just cleaned up the wiring and rerouted it, and it all comes out pretty well. And so all we've got now is the socket. Now there was something that mystified me, and that was I wasn't sure that the speaker wires, the two wires that go to the speaker, the brown ones, remember I cut a short and a long so I wouldn't get the polarities wrong? Good thing I did that, by the way. I'll tell you in a minute. And there was also another one that goes to the middle there. Those looked like they'd been put in sort of after the fact. So what I tried is I tried to connect the radio to this without those wires to see if someone had doubled up on the wiring, and they hadn't. Those wires are original, so they will have to be soldered in again. And there's another wire here, that blue wire, which was soldered to the, what is it, the ground tag of the heater of the Magic Eye. That's also got to go in. Again, my logic was, if they've got a socket like this, why would they have all these other wires flying around? But it seems they do. The point is, this thing is complete. I've actually tested it. I put the radio sideways on there to try and connect this, and I did all the speaker wiring with crocodile clip connectors, and this thing works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put everything back together, and then I'm going to give you a demo of the final result. From the little that I tried this out, the sound is absolutely amazing. Amazing. I don't know if it's because of the tweeter system they've got there, which I'd like to sort of isolate the sound from and see what frequency they're tuned to. It's probably more to do with those two massive drivers over there and the mid-range, which is a real mid-range, not a piezo. So the sound is really, really great. But stick around for a little while longer and you can hear for yourself. So here she is. Everything in the cabinet. Just remove this because I need to put the back plate on. The speaker wires were soldered over there. That other wire was soldered over there. The ground blue wire soldered on that side. And something else has been added as well. I couldn't consider this complete without a Bluetooth module, so I added one of my Bluetooth modules over here. This is the one that I did the project board on, where I added a booster amplifier on there to get the signal level up to the same level as you'd normally get on radio. So we've got the Bluetooth receiver there, the board over there, the supply over there. I'll link this board project above if you're interested. I haven't actually optimized those wires because I'm going to make a small change to this board, and I will tell you about that very, very soon. So this may not be the final board that gets left on here, so I left the wires long. And these wires are just connected to one of the dial lamps over there. That's for the AC, 6.3 volts AC. And that, as you can see, is very easy to remove. You just desolder these two wires and you get this back to standard. And the other cable, the audio cable, comes in here. It's tied there just to keep it in position. And it's soldered to the back of the phono jack over there, which again is very easy to remove and get this thing back to its original condition. So this seems to be complete. I'm just going to put the back cover on and then we're ready to give it a proper test. The back cover has had my usual polish treatment because it was really in bad shape. There we go. That's one. That's two. And we're ready to go. What I did here is I cleaned it up, and all those torn bits have been polished with brown shoe polish. I find that it's probably the best you can do for this. You can still see it obviously, but it's not as obvious. There was some broken parts over here. I just cut them straight. It sort of looks like it was meant to be, but it's looking spiffy. It's turned around. Looking quite a bit better than it was when it came in. And let me tell you about this now. I have got it on FM. And the sound on this thing is astounding. I've been listening to music on FM. Can't play it here, obviously, but the sound is absolutely amazing. If I use the external antenna, it gets better, but I've got to tell you, this thing, music on FM, is absolutely amazing. And what we've got here as well is quite a few options on how to play this thing, how to use this thing. So we have the setting for orchestra, which you can activate or deactivate. We've got, what is that? Solo and speech.
social, e essa energia depois vai servir estas 180 famílias, ajudando de certa
That's the one I
forma
prefer.
a ter problema.
If you use it without anything, these lights come on the tone controls, which allow you then to adjust the treble and bass to your own taste, away from the presets over here. Same applies on the other side. But as I said, I prefer this. This button here is your Raumklang, which instead of room sound, it's actually more spatial audio. Raum as in space. This was Graetz's version of, I suppose, surround sound, and it definitely makes a difference. If I put the sound up and if I deactivate it, see if you can determine the difference.
O espaço Schengen faz parte da nossa vida. É privilégio para todos os cidadãos da União Europeia e de quem aqui vive.
When you push that in, it basically just plays on the front speakers, probably without the mid-range as well. So you're getting dead audio, getting very thin audio, and when you leave it out and it's giving you the surround sound, it's absolutely amazing. The difference is astounding. I'm never going to push this thing in, except for demo purposes. This one here is for the external speaker, which I won't be using, and this one is where the saw point comes in. This is to deactivate the Magic Eye, and unfortunately our Magic Eye is blind. I can just see a little bit of green on there, but it's almost dead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to order the Russian version of the M34. It just requires a small change on the wiring of the socket. It's probably 10 times cheaper than getting one of these, but that is the saw point, as I mentioned. And there's one more thing that I've done here, and that is the button. See that? That button was broken, and I've replaced it. And I did not replace it with a Graetz one. This is where having donor chassis with donor radios around makes all the difference. I took this from another radio, which I believe was a GRUNDIG, if I'm not mistaken. It's just an old chassis that I've got lying around that I sometimes use parts from. It was something that was absolutely unsavable when I got it. And these knobs are practically identical. You can't even tell the difference. This one is slightly closer to the glass, but that's the only difference you can see. And the color, everything is the same. Mind you, a lot of these German radios probably use the same designs anyway, which is why these things seem to be interchangeable. But that is it. That means that our Graetz Melodia is done. And I've done a few demos of the reception as we went along. I'm probably, let me see if I can get anything. I'm not even sure that we'll get anything at this time of day. It's too early for the AM bands. Let's just try long wave. No. Medium wave. Something on my bench that's creating this hum. It's not the radio. Shortwave. Will we get anything? Maybe at this end. Terrible reception this time of day on AM, but in the evening this thing just gets completely blocked up. It's incredible. And you've seen that many, many times. I'm not going to bore you with that again. What I want to show you is the sound with the Bluetooth on. Okay, I've put this in a big room so that we can, well, I can at least get an idea of the sound. I don't know what it's going to be like for you. It's on orchestra. I've selected pickup, and I've already got the other phone here with Bluetooth. So let's hit it. I would love to put some real music on here. And this morning, or earlier today, I was listening to, well, actually getting back to my roots, I guess, listening to Fado. If you don't know what that is, it's the most melancholy music in the world. Portuguese invented it, melancholy lot, we are. But if you sit this in a lounge and put the volume up and just relax, the sound is absolutely astounding. I have definitely found another keeper, which is a problem because I'm running out of space. So that's it for now. That's the end of this project. And I'm fascinated. The 1960s or 50s surround sound really had its attributes, really had its advantages. I don't think we've done much better lately. So that's it for now, my friends, and I hope you've enjoyed the series. I've certainly enjoyed the result. Some of the steps I took frustrated me a bit, but other than that, it's been quite an experience. And if you have enjoyed that, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon and PayPal. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now, and stay safe.